Yeah. Yeah. I love hearing your girlfriend. With we like to hear this also blow, and then we like to hear full music.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to find them. No, this way. This way.
I thought
Come.
What happened? Is that sequel?
Oh, I know. Those down there. And here. She knows best. No question.
Oh, yes, the woman is smarter.
Yeah, you might as well. Otherwise,
Okay. Okay, it's 5 o'clock
Oh.
and time to get going here.
There are agendas over on that table if anyone wants one. 2 pages.
Okay, so this is a regular monthly PAC board meeting, Monday, October 7, and it's 5 o'clock. So time to get going here. Let's start with the approval of the final agenda. We have a motion to approve the agenda. Okay,
Jay,
do we have a second? Okay, any additions, discussion on the agenda? All approved? 5-0. Let's go on to public comment. This is for anybody with that has something to talk about. You have 3 minutes for something not on the agenda. Michaela, go ahead.
Hi, Michaela Dancer, 185 Marin Valley Drive. So after speaking with a lot of people in the park about us buying the park, is that okay to speak about? Okay.
Well,
I found that a lot
Not
of
on the
people
agenda.
have negative feelings. So I feel it's important to address their concerns. And a lot of people don't want to say anything in public. So I suggest that we have a suggestion box or something that people could put their grievances in, and we can address their concerns. Because I think that's the way to get through a lot of the negativity. Because when we spoke to a couple of people, we asked them their concerns, and that's exactly what happened. We answered them and they went, oh, okay. So that's my concept.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
one husband.
Okay, any other public comment before we get going? Go further.
Yeah, actually, your MC over here, David Gray, just wanted to do a shameless plug for my African photo safari that's going to be here in the ballroom tomorrow night, starting at 6:30. That's it.
Refreshments?
Refreshments during the intermission.
Thank you, David. Anybody else? John?
Speaking as the president of HOL, we had a request in the last HOL meeting for air conditioning in the gym. And I said, we can't do that. It must be a PAC thing. I spoke to Matt and he said, well, we've got it wired, but it's going to cost $5,000 or something. I don't know. So I'm just leaving it to you guys. There are people who want air conditioning in the gym because it gets really hot in there. And it seems that Matt thinks it's all going to be stripped down and rebuilt. So maybe this is the wrong time, but I'm just passing on something from the HOL meeting.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Anybody else?
The double dipper.
She's back.
Well, what were we talking about? I just lost it. Oh, thank you. So Timo said that there's an air conditioning unit that costs $100 that is on wheels and it cools a whole big room. And so I thought maybe we could do it. We have two places that need air conditioning. One is the workout room and the other one's the fireside room. So I'll have to bring it up with HOL, see if we could afford it. I think
Great.
that-
Thank you once more, Michaela. Anything else? Nothing on Zoom? I don't think. Let's see. Nope. We're clear there. Okay, then let's close public comment, go into our consent calendar. We have the minutes from September 3 and September 9 to approve. Do I have a motion to approve those one at a time or both, whichever?
I'll move both.
Okay, second.
Second,
Okay, discussion on the minutes from September 3 and 9. No discussion? Okay, with that, it's moved and seconded, so all approve. 6-0. I have both hands up. Okay, let's go on then to our reports. That concludes the consent calendar. So with the reports, let's go to number 1, Communications Committee.
Yeah, I've got a couple things to report. On the idea of speaking to the folks that have concerns, it hasn't been approved by this board yet, but I'd like to find a way to get it approved by this board. That we've been talking about bringing in an independent facilitator and trying to host a meeting with the people that are not necessarily understanding what we're doing or don't like what we're doing in an impartial, safe manner. So it's been tossed around, but we would need to make a decision, and I believe I can get someone pro bono that's an expert. So to be continued, maybe agendized, or however we need to do that.
Is that for this board or for the other board?
It would be for this board,
Okay,
I think.
is that something that we need to agendize?
Let me figure out which board it should go before. I have to think about that.
I disagree. I think
It's-
if that's about membership, that should be the.
Well,
other
it's
board.
about purchasing, and it was the PAC that decided to purchase.
Mm.
Correct. Thank
And
you.
it's the PAC's job to purchase.
Thank you.
So that's why I thought it was a PAC board
Okay.
item. All right, and then I wanted to mention something that's been very important and very helpful over the last month and a half. In concert with the ROD committee, the communications committee was inspired first by John Feld and the idea that there's already 6 zones that exist in the community for emergency response. And building on that, Janie Climbs came back from England on her first trip back in August, I think it was. She went over to see her son and husband and their new baby. And she informed me when she came back that she had spent her off time envisioning a community ambassador program. And so that's how we started the community ambassador program. It was Janie's idea, and John Feld supplied the 6 zones. We reached out to some folks. We found 6 zone leaders who are John Feld, Susan Hoff, Charlotte Kells, Ann Lakota, and Timo Navsky, and then Nancy Warfield and Trish Brady shared the zone up on View Ridge. And this was all inspired by Janie when she came back from her trip. She's like, I gotta tell you. So they did 2 rounds of outreach. They did a round of outreach to get people to come to the September 19th workshop, which really worked. We had over 150 or so people, I think 101 in the room and 50 or so on Zoom. And at that workshop, we talked about the joining agreement. And the next round of outreach from these ambassadors, I didn't really explain the program. There's 6 leaders and 1 in each zone. And then in each zone, there were about 5 residents that became the community ambassadors. So the leaders would coach their team on what needed to be said and the object of what we were doing. And the first round was to let people know to come to the workshop. And the second round was to make sure that everybody in the park was aware of the joining agreement and knew how to access one. And even to the point of, we'll take it and deposit it up here at the clubhouse for you if needed. And I think it worked out really well. I'll let Alan, when he gives his report, talk about where we are with that. But it's a great system to have in place, and we can use it going forward for other significant messaging to really go door to door and contact everyone in the park. So I just wanted to say that that was a success, combination of the ROD and the communication committees. And I really don't have anything else to add.
I'll add, I send out the constant contact, through constant contact, I sent out the messages from the PAC board.
Resident
Soon.
updates, to be specific.
Resident
Yeah.
updates and PAC
Agendas,
business,
yeah.
agendas and minutes. That's pretty much all that goes out. It's one of those three things. Very soon, there will be things also coming out from the co-op. So the same people for whom I have an email address will be getting something from PAC board, or they will be getting things from the co-op. I hope that doesn't create confusion. It may.
It will.
And I wanted to also talk about some progress about, I don't know, I lose track of time, but maybe 9 months ago, there were about 40 people in the park for whom I did not have an email address. They either were very elderly and didn't have a computer, or they were people who don't use email for one reason or another, or they refused. Now that list is down to about 15. So, and this is partly because a couple of people have left the park and, or left the planet, and partly because of the work that the ambassadors are doing right now. So that's big progress, and we're gonna work on that. So I'm just a heads up that pretty soon you will be getting things from the co-op as well as the PAC board, depending on what the business is.
And to add to that, I'm writing something for the Echo that will explain that there's going to be 2 boards and information coming from the 2 boards.
And we're going to try to make them very distinct so that we can't confuse the communication from one board with the other board. And actually, I've been working with Irma, and she's come up with some ideas for logos, a PAC logo and a Marin Valley Cooperative logo. You can probably see this from here. It's nice and bold. This is a PAC logo. It says PAC.
Hold it up to the camera.
I don't
Yeah,
know if
there you
that will
go.
work. Let's give it a shot here.
Yep.
Yep. Almost works.
This camera 1.
Camera 1.
There we go.
PAC
There we go.
in red.
So it says Park Acquisition Corporation with the address. And so this is one possibility. And then for the other, for the co-op, then here's another possibility. So we're just working on possibilities here right now. And so if you see something that looks like that coming down the pike, then you'll know that it's one or the other distinctly from the from one of the organizations. Okay, anything else on communications?
That's it.
Okay, let's move on then. David, let's open a public comment on communications. Great, thanks, David. Good suggestions.
I can say I wouldn't support that. The reason I wouldn't support it is I don't want to have resident ambassadors get blasted by anybody. That's our job.
Mhm.
And I don't think it's fair to them. They don't really know all the details that we do. So we're looking at different ways to try to make a safe situation. I've talked to Larry
Mhm.
about meeting, and I don't want to put anyone in a position. We've had ambassadors get yelled at by people and treated really rudely. I don't want to do it that way. I want to be more hands-on. I'm going to be more hands-on. I'll go door to door if I have to, but thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, David.
we're having some trouble with people on Zoom who are not able to hear what David is
Oh, that's
saying.
good.
So can we have
No.
somebody
Oh,
repeat?
Just someone,
That's-
I'll recap. David made two suggestions. The first is that the first time I send out something from the first time we send out something from the co-op, we also send out something at the same time from PAC board with a cover letter explaining the differences and that they will be getting one or the other in the future. His second suggestion was that when the ambassadors go to door, they take a form so that people can write their concerns anonymously and put them in a suggestion box in the clubhouse, and that those concerns can then be addressed at either ROD workshops or PAC board, wherever the appropriate venue is. Correct, David? Am I good? Sure. Did everybody
That's-
hear that? Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Let's go on then to receive a report from the Resident Ownership Discovery, or the ROD Committee.
Ooh,
Careful there, Alan.
big hole there. I'm Alan Gump, 6 View Ridge Drive on the ROD Committee. The ROD Committee continues to meet weekly with our experts from ROC USA and CCCD. We work through all the appropriate documentation that we need to, and we're basically just trying to move the LEHC path forward. In September, we had a major workshop, well attended, as Mary said, about 150 people or plus on Zoom as well as in the hall here. The focus of that meeting was on launching the membership drive and on the 4 items that we'll be voting on in our first member meeting, which was originally scheduled, but now we're going to delay that, and I'll speak more about that in a second. The results of this wonderful ambassador program have been very positive. To date, as far as I know, we have 215 households as members in the new nonprofit corporation. That's massive. That's pushing 70%. So this is a fabulous number. And it's thanks to that hard work that all those ambassadors did, getting the word out and speaking with people. The box is still in the lobby. You can still submit your form and your check, put it in an envelope, and we're open for business for receiving more members. We completed 1 fireside chat this month since the last PAC board meeting, and that was to focus on 2 of the 4 measures that we're going to be voting on in this first member meeting. We had scheduled this fireside chat for this coming Thursday, but we've decided to hold back on that because we're still hammering out bylaws. We thought we had those in great form, but as we go through them and more discussion with our experts from ROC USA and CCCD and amongst ourselves, we're finding areas that we need to tighten up. So we will keep everyone posted on when that next workshop will be. We're also, upon reflection on these bylaws, they're so important, even though they're temporary bylaws and they're just transition bylaws to get us from now until the time we purchase the park. We still have to make sure that we do this correctly and legally. And the bylaws govern membership as well as the director terms and the director elections. So we want to get this nailed before we put it out. Once we get this text reasonably finalized amongst ourselves, we'll put it out to the community for comments. We'll get those comments back, be back to the board, MBC board that is, possible possible weigh-in by our attorney. Certainly our ROC and CCCD experts will weigh in. We'll get that finalized, and then we'll have a workshop to tee that up for the vote. So as I said, that 10:24 meeting that was scheduled for the first member workshop is postponed. We anticipate that happening in November. Hopefully not too close to the date of the major election that we're all thinking about. Thank you.
Ellen, I kind of spaced your presentation there for a second, but did you mention that there is going to be a resident review period?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we will send that out for reflection and comment to the whole community. We'll receive those comments, we'll integrate them, we'll integrate what we can, what we think is appropriate. We'll identify what we do not integrate, and we'll be communicating back and forth on that. It's a laborious process, but we think we really need to do this right. So, thank you.
Thanks, Ellen. Do you have any questions from the board?
No.
Okay, any questions here? Let's open it to public comment on this
there's
issue.
one.
Yeah. Go for it, Tom.
Hi, Tom Whedon, 122 Moran Valley Drive. Just, this might have been discussed, I don't know, but what is the urgency? And by that, I mean, what is the due date by which somebody needs to send in their application and their $25? So what is the date by, and what's the trigger around that date?
Okay, Ellen, do you want to address that?
Tom, thanks for your question. There's no end date. But you must join the nonprofit public benefit corporation if you wish to vote in the November election. The November election that will be scheduled is only for members. We're inviting everyone to attend because we want to educate everyone, but only those people who are members. We haven't yet determined what that absolute last submission date will be for your check and your membership form, but it will be certainly a day or two in advance of the meeting, which still isn't scheduled. So stay tuned on that.
Thank you for that
Thanks,
day
Ellen.
or two to process it. And I will remind people that I am collecting the ballots every Friday at 4:30 with an observer who is Carolyn Corey. And then I process the forms and Stephen processes the checks, and that's how we've come to the 215.
Great.
Is there a way to be?
I'm sorry, what's your
Oh,
name?
I'm sorry. I'm Sherry Smith.
Oh,
I'm
nice to
actually
meet you.
I'm in Three Fallen Lake. So is there a way to get some kind of notification if you've submitted this, just saying, we got it, you're a member, or you're,
Your cleared check
What's the question?
is what we
Um,
decided.
If,
was when your
yeah,
check clears.
Okay,
I mean,
That's what we decided.
actually, I'd say no news is good news. If an ambassador doesn't knock on your door, it means we're happy that we don't have to knock on your door.
Well, you can contact either me or you.
Yeah,
Stay
or you
on
can,
the list.
or you could call me. I'm
Yeah.
Carol Joy, or you could call Steve Cloker.
Just to
I
confirm
was-
that you're on the list.
I was going to say that we maintain a master list of members, and if you have any question about whether your membership form was lost in the mail, eaten by the dog, etc., give Carol Joy or Steve a call. They'll tell you yes or no.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments here on the ROD committee report?
May I interrupt for a moment?
Yes,
This is-
ma'am.
This is not something we did at the beginning of this meeting, but we used to do this for the new people in the park. Like I had never met Sherry. We used to open the meetings by introducing ourselves and our role. So I'm Carol Joy Harris. I'm the secretary.
I'm John Hanson, the president.
I'm Jay Shelford, Vice President.
And Mary Curry, Vice President.
Steve Cloker, treasurer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good idea.
Okay, let's move on then to the receiver report, a report from the PAC treasurer. Steve.
Okay. This will be for the month of August. We just finished September, but we never have reports soon enough to
comment on the most recent month. So we're always a month behind. The reports get issued about the middle of the following month. So this will be about August. The PAC petty cash bank account is still about $1,959. I use that to reimburse small expenses that people spend for PAC purposes. Cables for these presentations, our web hosting fees, our domain fee. Sometimes if someone uses a lot of supplies at their home to send out a flyer, I'll reimburse them for supplies. So little stuff. It doesn't run out because when I get about 5 or 6 of those, I put them all together and get reimbursed by Matt. Then it goes on the park budget. He pays that and then goes posted to a PAC line item in our budget. So that way this account never runs out. Why don't they go right to him? Because it sometimes takes him 3 or 4 months to pay them. I'll pay them within a couple of days. And then I let him build up, and then I don't care how quickly he pays me when I ask for a reimbursement for all of it. So that's what the PAC petty cash account is all about. Now, for the financial side of MVMCC, I usually give a report about the DSCR calculation. The DSCR is debt service coverage ratio. That means when all is said and done, the bottom line, how much of our debt service does it cover? Well, in our case, it's got to be twice. We have a required debt service coverage ratio of 2.0. So if our monthly mortgage payment is $50,000, we better have $100,000 of profit. Okay, this was set up originally with the bank when we got the loan many years ago. So in order to be in compliance with our loan, we have to maintain that coverage ratio. So that means we have to maintain a certain level of profit. So we watch that, and Matt's very good at maintaining it. And except for a recent year, which we won't say who's to blame for that, but let's just say it wasn't MVMCC. We've always hit that right on. So at the moment, our year to date through the end of August, which is 2 months, because our year end is June 30th. So July 1st, we start a new year. So we've been 2 months and our debt service coverage ratio is 2.15. That's very nice. It goes up and down throughout the year because sometimes, well, for instance, the big sewer payment of $350,000 happens in December. That really skews things. So I have to make adjustments for the allocating that to all the different months. The bookkeeper doesn't do that. They just plunk it in December. Same thing at the close to the end of our year, the city pays all our insurance, another $300,000. So, you know, things are up and down, but I try and even it out when I prepare the report so I can have a sense of where it's going. And that's that. Any questions?
Go ahead. I'll open this to public comment. And this issue.
When is our final payment on this loan? It's December of 2027.
Yes, December of 2027. 3.5 years.
Did you say 2.15 for the debt service? 2.15?
2.15. I have the amortization schedule I can show if you want to see it.
Oh, do I have enough? Okay, go ahead, Tom.
How much was the loan originally for?
How much was the original loan?
17.5.
I think it was right around 8 million.
8 million?
Yeah,
it-
17 was the first one, and
Oh,
then we had
okay,
a second.
That's right, the secondary, yeah.
This was a
8 million.
refi.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And our interest rate now is at? And the interest rate that we're paying?
2%.
Mhm.
2%.
2%.
Might be 2.5, but it's
That's
very
great.
low.
I think
Thank
you're
you.
right. Mhm.
Can't beat that.
Just
Yeah,
to
really not
clarify-
anymore.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
Just to clarify that residents have actually paid down upwards of $20 million over the years, not
Mhm.
just this 8 million that you're mentioning.
8 million was original.
No, the
So-
original was 17.
Yeah,
And this was at the end of 2013 that this refi was done.
yeah, that was on B or whatever. Any rate, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard the numbers 20 to 22 million floating around. That is an important number to have in our hats because that's what we've paid so far.
Okay, and also for clarification, that was, Steve usually combines his PAC treasurer's report and the finance committee report as he did, today. So that was items 4 and 3. So, let's move on then to, I see no more comments or questions. Let's move on into the, report from management. Jay, do you have that?
Mine, yeah.
Oh, right.
Can you use your microphone, Jay?
I can use it.
Closer,
This one here,
closer.
That one.
closer.
Closer.
Yeah, you could almost be eating it.
Testing 743. Anyway,
Is that better? Okay.
so, the procedure is basically, Matt prepares a budget.
Can't hear you.
Closer.
Wow,
He needs a longer stem.
how's that? That sounds better. Okay, Matt prepares a budget.
Better.
It's approved by the PAC board and by the owner of the city. And then those funds are dispensed over the course of the year. Now, having originating the project back at the turn of the century, slowly things have required more and more maintenance. So right now, a lot of the work that is being done is to renew such things as he's done this past month, which is like a safety rail. In other words, behind some people's homes, there are guardrails to keep people from slipping over and falling over. So a lot of this work is basically maintaining the lot, which the park is responsible for. And while we are, as resident owners, responsible for maintaining our own homes. Now, part of that responsibility of the management is to maintain the sewerage. And there is an ongoing maintenance program for renewing the sewer, and that was also done this past month. And we've noticed over the years that the piping for the water has been deteriorating, rusting, so that there's been a certain amount of leaks and a certain amount of replacement, simply because there's not enough pressure in some of the earlier homes up on the beginning part of phase 1. So part of the work that he did last month was to repair leaks for some of these homes. Now, he's also worked on a retaining wall and
For allergies. I'm allergic to.
so basically the work that is being done by the management is to maintain the facility. Now, our own big question is how are we going to get the work necessity done for repairing the roof and repairing the electrical switch, etc. And now what has happened in the past few months is that we have a new city manager, and the new city manager has taken the position that we have to follow the procedures laid out by the civic code in terms of how we repair these facilities. So repairing the roof is not simply getting a contractor to repair the roof. It requires the city to hire people to look at the roof and tell them what needs to be done. So what has happened is that they have contacted an architect and an engineering group to assess both the electrical switch and the roof. And it appears now that it will not happen until next year. So right now, the schedule is that they are going to, in a way, it's gonna work in our regard in the sense that we're really gonna push to have a aluminum roof rather than a asphalt roof because of the fire danger in this area. And while it'll be more expensive, I think our plan to spend as much of the reserves as we can prior to taking ownership to find ways to actually improve our facility and do it correctly, I think it'll work out in the long run. So right now, they've taken the position that they have to do it according to the rule book, and there's not very much that we can fight against it. And speaking with Matt is fairly confident that he can close up the leaks that are on the roof now so that no further damage or less damage will occur if it hasn't been repaired this year. So that's ongoing. And he's working diligently with the engineering group and with the architect to come up with a project that will be satisfactory to the PAC board as well as to the Helsing group in terms of getting it done correctly. So we're just going to have to bite the bullet, so to speak, and go along because there's no way that we can push the river. They have a set procedure. They said that this is the only way that legally we're able to do it, and we're going to do it the proper way. So we are stuck until next year to get this work done.
Can I ask a question
Yeah.
on that? I'm really confused because Amy Cunningham sent us an email on 9/17 that says they've brought engineering services on board to assist with the 3 projects, the roof, the electric switch, and ADA improvements to ensure consistent support for these projects. The RFP is complete and the consulting service contracts were awarded by the city council on September 10th, and we're now in the process of getting those firms under contract. So I don't understand. That's a big difference to what you just said.
Well, it's actually ongoing. So the people that they've hired are now in contact with Matt, looking at the situation and coming up with procedures to deal with it. So what they've done is they've hired someone to oversee the project, and now we are working with the people who are overseeing the project to come up with how it's going to be done. When it's finally how it's going to be done, then it'll be put out for a contract to be completed next year.
Okay, Amy was not forthcoming with that piece of information. She made it sound like the contracts would get awarded and work would start.
No, well, the contracts are awarded to hire people who will then assess the situation.
I understand now, but Amy was very unclear in her email to us.
Yeah.
So that's not good.
It's not good.
Anyway.
It's not good, but it's very difficult to change or push them to do it.
I understand that. Yeah, they've got a process.
They've got a
And
process.
Amy's going to follow it. Sure.
So,
And-
so,
and-
so for now, we're hiring scientists instead of roofers.
Right.
No.
Yep.
Well, I mean, we're gonna have the opportunity to get the fire department
Thank you.
and our own expertise to input to both the architect and to the construction people on how we think it should be done, and we can suggest things and push for what we feel to be the way to do things. And hiring an outside contractor or an outside architect who is not familiar with the process or the project itself, we have the opportunity to put that kind of input in to get them to react to what our needs are rather than a generic approach to the problem, such as putting on a roof that is asphalt as opposed to putting on a roof that is metal, which
Metal.
will,
Metal, that works.
metal.
Could be.
So we don't have to worry about a fire burning down the place. So we're gonna be putting information in and hopefully we won't get washed away before it's completed.
I have another question for you. Where is this fund, where are these funds coming from to pay for these experts that have to come in and review our project before it can be
Your
built?
rents,
It's not a line item in our budget. I don't understand. how
Well,
they
part of
can-
the
CIP
roofing
budget,
expense.
it comes out of reserves, capital
I
reserves.
understand where it's coming from, but
Mhm.
we have line items in the CIP budget.
Yeah, that's right.
So
We,
is it coming from the roof budget? That's 350,000 will get drawn out
Sure.
of that, so there'll be not enough money left to pay for the roof. That's
Probably.
perfect.
probably.
yeah,
Okay.
probably, yeah.
All right, just checking.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, the way it works is that, what we have in the past received was a bill
Right.
from the city for engineering work to draw up a contract to do something.
Right,
So we get a additional bill over and above
right.
what has been budgeted. And that then gets folded into the following year's budget.
Okay, thanks.
Or when we go back mid-year and ask for more money. That happens.
Can.
Yeah, it should be discussed at that point. maybe.
So in the meantime, I think we would be open to donations of paddle ponds and watering troughs.
Thank you, Jay.
Well, I mean, it's a problem in the sense that we want to have the work done. Subsequent city managers have found different ways of approaching the problem. And right now we have Amy, whose approach to it is in terms of her understanding of the law, procedurally correct. And it's difficult for us to push the river, so to
No,
speak.
I get it.
I think somebody had a comment.
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay.
Okay, is that it, Jay?
That's it.
Any more good news there?
No, well, that's enough.
Well, they did look at the ADA. They did, went through I was out here when they did it, it's how I know. So, at least that's on their radar. Where, I have no idea, but, at least they're looking at it. So let's go on then to receive a report from MFest Firewise Committee. Bill Davis.
Bill Davis with his new back. Looking
Yeah.
pretty sharp there, Bill Davis.
Bill Davis, 5 View Ridge, and MPES report. First, a little bit of news. The North Hill over here, which is the big grass sloping uphill, is going to be set on fire on the 24th or 25th.
Yay.
And the fire district is going to be here to put it out. And it's going to be a drill. If, this is the key,
No
the
wind.
Diablo wind doesn't preclude it, which could mean that would blow into here and then not so good. Because we all know what happens if a fire gets in here.
Yeah.
So that's why we have MFest. The Marin Valley Emergency Safety Team. It's one of the many acronyms that we are faced with when you move in. It's an alphabet soup. And if you get them all down in 6 months, you've done well. So on September 20, we met to talk about where our future is and also to talk about the presentation that Battalion Chief Jeff Willett presented to us. I believe it was on the 4th. That was, the guy that's going to kick us out of here or evacuate us out of here or stay and play. Did a wonderful job. Yeah, I mean, and he's just one of many of these battalion chiefs that are really well orchestrated. The steering committee met on the 20th and we talked about our future because since COVID and since all the other activities in this park, the dynamics of ownership in the future has really pushed MVest back. So we're looking at reorganization of block chiefs, zone chiefs, block captains, IC,
and how to properly get that organization evaluated, and what kind of dynamic can we expect with the people who have volunteered their times? And you have to respect something pretty important, is that this is a volunteer committee, like almost every committee in this park. And this is senior citizens. And anytime you have a volunteer, you have a problem with discipline, didn't show up at the meeting. Or maybe apathy that you don't have from an employee. So what's going on right now is so dynamic compared to where MVest is, except that we still live in an earthquake environment, plus the fire, and now we need to think about smoke. And that piece is covered. We have masks up here. I think those are N95s, aren't they, John?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, and MVest has a lot of masks. So when that smoke comes, be careful. Use it. So that's where we are right now. Questions, please.
You used an acronym IC. Want to clarify that?
Incident commander?
I see.
You
Incident.
said we have zone chiefs and block captains and IC.
Incident
CCBCs and
command.
ICs, of course. Incident command.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Why did they pick this hill to burn? Just out of curiosity.
Why do they set it up?
Is there a reason they picked it?
Yeah, because before, San Rafael has been using over at St. Vincent's and
Right.
drilling over there. Well, it's time to share the wealth.
Oh, Nevada was
That's-
jealous and they wanted to
Well,
have a hill
that's,
to burn?
so it's all burnt out.
Right,
Yeah.
They need some good grass, but it has to be a safe environment. you
yeah.
know. So, and it was scheduled 2 months ago, and the winds were too much for it. And like today would be a perfect day to burn, right? 100-degree weather, wonderful. Barbecue time.
It's also all grass, predominantly grass where they're gonna burn. And so we don't have to worry about losing trees or those sorts of embers flying. And it's pretty well corralled, has been for a long time by the fire district, so it's perfect
Right.
for them.
And it has a dynamic history. Remember that thing lit
Yes.
up how many years ago?
2016.
8 years ago.
Yeah.
This time it'll be all under control, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for those of you that are new, we had a real fire coming down that hill. Very scary. 8 years ago.
Yeah,
It came to within 10 feet of a few of the homes here. It was very scary.
Yep, that was a
Yeah.
close one.
so it's a good drill, and it's good to get that grass burned out.
But we're in much better shape now because since then, a lot of the, almost all the trees are gone that were there and the grass has been cut and we're just in way better shape.
Yeah, we're better off now, but there's a lot of work yet to be done. So we're going forward, and Invest is reorganizing to push it realistically forward. Yes,
I had one other question. I know the last meeting we talked about possibly having the fire department look at some of the trees that didn't get trimmed in the first go around because we ran out of money. Did that happen? And was there any outcome from that?
thank you. John Hanson and I toured the park, took a bunch of snapshots, and Lynn Osgood, the battalion chief, is now working on that.
Okay, great. Because that could help us.
But there's no answer to what's going to be done, because to get them trimmed and taken down, I think it's going to be turned right back around and said, Matt, this is what we need to do. This is the priority that should be
Right.
done.
That's right, and that's where we go to the city with the fire district's recommendation and say, we really need our budget back.
Yep.
Because Matt has said that we are already through our tree trimming budget for the year.
Right.
So if we need more, we need more.
Yeah, and we got halfway through the work.
Thank you.
I'll report on that and hopefully have a
Thanks, Bill.
disposition.
One more question. We had talked briefly about maybe getting a fire flow report, a fire flow test from the city.
You're talking about the water.
Yes.
I haven't even put it up yet.
Okay,
I've
great.
been
That's fine.
rolling with another question. Thank you for bringing that up. I'll take care of it. within the week.
Okay, good enough.
Thanks,
yeah.
Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Good report.
And for those of you who want to know, wondering, a fire flow is the volume of water over a period of time. It's a formula that the fire districts use to tell if there's enough water here for a fire. There's a code that the fire district has, and as far as I know, that hasn't been tested here for some time. And I just want to make sure it is before we go any further with our planning. Yes,
Hi. Are we
Hi.
at public comment?
yes, public comment.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you.
I just wanted to note that fire we had, that was this weekend. It was the Hardly Strictly Bluegrass weekend. Some of us were there. And in reference to what Bill said, I forgot already. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
We understand.
Okay, let's move on then to the receiver report from HOO.
Oh.
Did you remember what you forgot?
Where they're digging up there, is that where the fire is going to be?
No.
What is all that digging?
That's PG&E and has nothing to do with us.
Oh, thanks.
So let's go into the HOL report. John Phil.
May I
What?
interject?
Oh,
We
yes, go
have,
ahead.
Two questions
Oh,
online.
okay, see.
One is from Serena Fisher. What happens if our electrical box fails in this interim time when we're waiting for the city to do their analysis? And in any case,
Did everybody hear that? Serena Fisher is on Zoom and her question is, what if the electrical switch fails while we are waiting for the city to fix the electrical switch?
The suggestion that has been given is that we should try to take the old switch and renew it by putting in new knife switches and new controls in it. So this was a situation that was designed and built like 60 years ago. So the manufacturers more than likely no longer exist. And what we've been told by the advisors to the city that looked at it was that we should research the equipment that's in the switch to see if we could find old examples of it so that if they do fail, we could use these newly captured pieces to mend it and to get it to work. Now, the person who made those suggestions is not an expert on the switch, but a person who is an expert on laying the conduit and the wires to the switch. So it's relevant, but not really a very good answer. But Matt is pursuing both avenues, still continuing to push to enjoin the city to put out a contract on replacing the switch. And also at the same time, he's in the process of trying to find material that could be used in the interim in the switch that may fail because of the brownout. So basically, there's no clear answer, Serena.
So the recommendation is to put a penny behind it. Okay, we have two other questions.
yes, there's from Sue Meyer. Her question is, this is the second year that the palm trees have not been trimmed. The fronds are very flammable, and for 2 years, the money has run out.
Noted.
Thank you, Sue. Was there one more?
Nope, that was it.
Okay.
Online.
Go ahead, John.
I spoke to Matt today. He said there's a possibility that that big hole that they've dug at the top of the hill is for a new cell phone tower.
Under the PG&E
Well, that's
lines?
where the power comes from. And there's a gas line there, there's a power there, there's an underground power line, and the aerial power lines. He said it's a possibility. He doesn't know. He's asked them and they won't tell him what's going on.
Yeah.
Well-
I tried asking them too, and they wouldn't tell me either. So just, it's a possibility that it could be a new cell phone tower, which would be stellar.
It looks like a pretty deep trench up there.
Well, they've got to get to the power.
Yeah,
apparently.
no, it's.
Well, the power is on the, on the tower. What's underneath there is gas. I think it's a gas line under there.
Let's see, David, did you have one more?
You gonna trust that?
Um, Okay, it just showed up. Do we have, this is from Janine Bradley, do we have a backup plan B for when, not if, the electrical switch fails, how will we receive electricity to the park?
Okay, that was Janine Bradley.
Janine,
Thank you.
didn't we just answer that?
No.
I think the best answer is John Hanson's comment of the penny under the switch.
Well, people do need to be reminded maybe that in a brownout or a blackout, that we have the backup generator here at the clubhouse and that people can come here to, recharge their cell phones and do whatever they need to do if they lose power at their house.
Yes, and otherwise, if the power goes out for the entire park, it's going to be out for a while, like it was a few years ago. Then we'll be stuck with generator fees, massive giant generators. They cost what, $1,000 a day, something like that.
Well, more so, more.
Yeah. But yeah, it wasn't that, that's what it was back then, so it's probably a lot more. Anyway, yeah, that's our situation with the dealing with the city, unfortunately.
I mean, the further answer to that question is that when the power goes out, whether it is something that happened inside the park or something outside of the park, we should really spend a little time to put a notice perhaps in the echo saying that people should really turn off major appliances or literally turn off their circuit board inside their home, because what happens is that if you have an electric motor operating your refrigerator, the startup on that is between 2 and 3 times what the amp draw is from a dead stop. So what happens is that if a brownout occurs, then the restart draws an incredible amount of power to light up all of the appliances within the park. And that's all being drawn through that very old transfer switch. And that's where our problems may arise, where that thing fails. So we should really write a little article in the Echo telling people that in the event of a brownout, go to your
Blackout.
circuit.
That's a
board.
blackout, Jay. Brownout's a whole different situation,
Okay.
just as bad though.
Yeah, either way, if the lights go out, turn off your circuit board until the lights come back on, and then re-energize slowly rather than a big surge.
So flip all your breakers off is what.
Yeah.
Well, there's on your circuit board, there is
We're-
usually two switches on
Yeah.
top that are
has-
100 amp switches. Those
Okay.
get turned off.
Okay.
Okay, let's go on. Bill?
A couple of things. A lot of new people in the park, they probably don't know that we have a power generator over here. And if you're using like a CPAP machine or something like that, need to be charged up. When we get the power outage, that generator comes on and this place is electrified.
I
It's
just
a
said
reason.
that.
Thank you. Did I miss?
That's
I'm very-
okay.
He listened to
okay.
everybody else except.
I'm sorry.
We need it in both ears. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm married to that woman. The other thing is the palm trees need to be trimmed and we didn't evaluate that. I'll make sure that goes to the fire district.
Oh, yeah, good. Okay, so let's go on then to the HOL report.
Another acronym for our New residents, the
It's the
HOL.
Homeowners League, which is like the homeowners association, except we don't
John,
have responsibility for any buildings. So we're just a league. We're here for entertainment value. And I've got my cheat sheet here, which is the October calendar, which is in your Echo. We have several really interesting things happening this month. We have the League of Women Voters coming to tell us about all the election issues. They are always impartial and they're always very informative. And they will be here on the 28th.
14th.
14th. Sign up there says 14th.
Well, according to, okay, the 14th apparently. Yes, you're right. Of course you're right, because you're the person who's organizing it. We have Jay Shelfer, who's going to be doing a presentation about the history of the park at the last Monday lecture in the fireside room.
Right.
We have the Preventing Anxiety and Depression workshop in the fireside room on Tuesday, whenever it is, the 5th, every Tuesday. Well, no, the second, sorry, it's not every Tuesday. It's the 8th and the 15th Tuesdays. We have the Death and Dying group, which is coming up on tomorrow.
They aren't really, they're just learning about it.
They're just learning about death and dying.
You don't go to that meeting to die?
We don't go there to die. And for the future, I'm getting all my help I can find. We have a new system for recycling batteries, fluorescent bulbs, and toner cartridges coming. We have a member of the park, Lou Demerol, who's organized it. He's got us permits because we have to have permits now.
Great.
And we're getting new shelving, which is going to go behind the big shed in the breezeway. And there's going to be receptacles in there. And the difficult part is that there's now two kinds of battery recycling. There's a regular AA, AAA, and all the batteries that look like normal batteries. And then there's the flat ones that look like coins that go into devices. The coin ones have to be wrapped individually with some tape, because if you put them all together, they catch fire.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
anything that's a lithium battery has to be insulated against other lithium batteries. So we have an education program that's going to have to come out, and it's going to be difficult. We have had problems with the new Macintosh that went into the library. Before we had it set up, somebody came in and changed the password, and so nobody could use it. And I had to take it down to Apple twice, and we've now got it fixed. But we're a little worried because it's the first new Macintosh we've got there, and we've just spent a lot of money on it. And we're waiting for some security that will stop it being walking away. What else?
Irma's coming to.
Irma's
remove
coming to tell me.
The cavalry.
Oh, it was David's safari presentation, which he told us about.
That's tomorrow, right?
That's
Tomorrow night.
At what time? 6:30.
6:30, which is going to be amazing. They always are. And that's about it, I think. Huh? Oh, the men's hour, there's going to be a men's group coming, and I've no idea when that's going to happen. It's happening on the 22nd in the fireside room at 5 o'clock. And I think that's all. I'm sorry it's so scattered. I got involved in other things to do before I started this report. Anyhow, If you've got any questions, I can answer them. Just one point of information. The silver fridge in here went out.
The what?
Again, the silver fridge in here went out. And while this meeting was going on, I've spoken to the person who came to fix it, and it can't be fixed. So I'm going to talk to Matt about that in the morning. But basically, we've lost 1/5 of Marval's fridges and 1/3 of Mitchell's fridges.
It's always something.
It's always something, and it's always expensive. Any questions?
No,
Thank you very
John.
much.
Thank you, John.
Thanks,
you.
John.
Okay, our last item here on the reports is Marvel.
And the Marval president, Carolyn Corey, asked me to read her report, which is as follows. Please join Marval for Black Cat on October 26th. That's a Saturday. There will be prizes for the best costumes, a 50-50 raffle, the Bakery Boutique, and fabulous food. This is Marval's only fundraiser for the year. Proceeds are used to renew our liquor license. Please plan to come. It's always a lot of fun. The annual Thanksgiving dinner will be on November 23rd. If you are willing to roast a turkey or wish to volunteer in some other capacity, please call Sandy Duncan. Thank you. That's it.
Okay,
Good.
any questions here? All right, that finishes our reports. Let's go on into old business. The first item is an update on the ad hoc city council committee. Let's see. I don't have anything to add on this. I know the city's been very busy with their election. And otherwise, yes, do you have something?
Yeah, just add that it's part of the exclusive negotiating agreement that periodically the PAC board submit a progress report. And because we're having some issues moving forward on a couple of things in the ENA, because the city's not ready to move forward, Karen, our legal counsel, suggested that we write a progress report because the ENA does ask for periodic progress reports. So that is in process now, and it's intended to show what we've accomplished and also to give them a little nudge on what needs to be accomplished next and how we could go about accomplishing what needs to be done next, mainly the due diligence and also some issues with city costs that haven't been resolved yet. So it's sort of a way to gently say, here's what we've accomplished, but we haven't resolved these issues yet and we need to. So that's not a direct ad hoc, but it's ENA ad hoc information.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up really, but
Yeah.
we're pretty low in the totem pole for the city to have time to do things. They are still short-staffed, and that's why their Measure M is out there. They're pushing that hard. We are too for them. And hopefully we'll have some more time from them to kickstart our ad hoc afterwards.
May I ask a question? Just for clarification, this progress report is not going to include anything about the co-op, right?
No, it's just about ENA activities and what we've done and what still needs to be resolved because they don't seem to, they say they'll get back to us verbally and they don't. So this is just a way to outline in writing, here's an issue, you know, what's going on.
Right.
Exactly.
We're
yeah.
waiting to hear.
Yeah,
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that for everybody.
I just also want to clarify that the Measure M, the PAC board are not supporting or promoting that. We're not allowed to do that. So you'll see Measure M signs, and those are things that individuals have agreed to put out and support Measure M. And there was an article in the October Echo about Measure M, just so you want to know what it is. It's a pretty important measure.
Thank you, Mary. Jay, anything to add?
No.
Steve, anything to add?
No.
Okay. Any questions? Open to public comment on ad hoc committee. Okay. Let's see, nothing online. So let's go on then to the update on our work with legal counsel and fundraising for that.
Steve?
Yeah, usually I report on the amount, total amounts that we have raised and what our funds are right now and what legal bills that we might have, that we might be waiting to pay. Mary asked me to stop reporting on the total amount of funds collected, but rather do a cutoff at the point where we had terminated our relationship with Hanson and Bridget. And then from this point forward, just report on the funding beyond that stage. And so here's what that would be if we were to do that. Total to date, we've raised $198,881. At dollar number 173,221, we had paid off Hanson Bridget. Okay? We haven't paid anything since. So all the money we've raised since is in the bank account now. That would be $25,627. So it sounds like what you want me to do is from the future, just report on this period moving forward.
Yeah, maybe just a sentence that, as a reminder, we spent 170,000 on the first stage of stopping the city and getting an ENA done. And now going forward.
You know, it's interesting that $173,000, if you divide that by 415, the supposed number of residents here, that's $422 each. It cost us to stop the sale and negotiate the ENA. I think that's a pretty good deal.
It is a good deal in that perspective. And just to remind everybody that Goldfarb Lippman is billing us on 2 tracks. And the reason we don't have an invoice yet is they had to go back and redo their invoices because I kept catching things that were wrong. And so they're going to send us a bill for what they're doing on the work with the city. And the legal fund covers that work. So the $25,000, which will probably get depleted fairly quickly once we get.
Yeah, we're waiting for an invoice from
August,
Lippman
September.
Goldfarb and also waiting for an invoice from the city, both of which need to be adjusted for
Right,
various reasons. So
right. And
soon
then-
we'll spend a good chunk of that.
And then the funds, the legal time being billed for work on moving forward with the cooperative will get billed, but we're not paying them. They're holding that. Goldfarb has agreed to let us hold that and not pay it until we get a pre-development loan, which is down the road. So they're holding us accountable ultimately, but we're hoping that the pre-development loan covers that.
Also, they're still sorting out which part of that they would be billing to us and which part of that they would be billing to Rock USA.
Right.
Because they are working for them too on some of the things that benefit us. So it's a little complicated there, and their accounting department's having a little problem with it, but they'll get there.
What about the other one, the city? Who's working?
That's what Karen is including in her progress report, that
Mhm.
they were not clear on that.
She's
there's
working
been
on that.
Verbal discussions with the city attorney. This is the part of the ENA that says we will pay all city costs, legal and administrative, for any work related to the ENA and for the ad hoc committee meetings. And so we pushed back because they sent us a bill and pointed out that most of what they were billing us for was not related to the ENA, but related more to capital budget discussions.
Mhm.
And then there was a verbal reply from their attorney that, well, we don't really agree. And then nothing. So Karen's gonna, in the progress report, lay out our case that we shouldn't have to pay the amount that they billed us
Yeah, yeah.
There's
So-
other issues.
and
that-
other issues.
Okay.
So stay tuned.
Okay, so let's open to public comment on that. Is everybody as confused as I am? Good. Okay, let's go on then to discussion and possible action regarding home replacement procedures. This is moved up from new business last month to old business this month. And let's see. I haven't done anything with this. Has anybody else done?
Somebody was supposed to talk to Matt and say,
Yeah.
and ask Matt to develop a procedure.
Right. Oh, but you
And
didn't
you
do
had
that?
volunteered to do it,
Oh,
John, but
Yeah.
Yeah, you did. I can do it. So,
sure.
so I'll do that.
Okay, great. Yeah, because we should get that moving. My bad.
No problem.
Okay,
Tom's got a question.
Tom, go ahead.
So as a reminder, these events happened on 6/21 and 6/24.
These events,
The move in and move outs
Yeah.
that became problematic and exposed maybe we could do this better.
Mhm.
There were questions raised as far as what our support expectations are from our operations team, whether those expectations were met, what traffic control opportunities there are for improvement. Also raised was the communications that came electronically were problematic both from a technical perspective as well as the content. So those were kind of points that I remembered that we were talking about. June, July, 4 months ago, when this was originally put on the agenda. So yeah, just as a reminder for when you talk with Matt, so you can find out what Matt has to say.
thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
That reminds me, we meant to ask in the MVS report if there is any progress regarding upgrading our robocall system. And I
I
think,
usually ask David during communications,
r-
but I
oh,
forgot to ask him tonight.
well, so we forgot to ask you twice. So I'm asking you now. Is there any
And
change on that?
I don't have anything to update. Sorry about that.
Okay, so let's revisit that at our next meeting, and I think that should be part of maybe Invest. Yeah, because you were doing that as your part of your role on the Invest steering committee. Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Tom has.
Go ahead, Tom.
And actually, as I remember it, this was a operations and communications thing, not a secretary thing. So if anybody should be talking to me, Matt, it'd be the operations and communications vice president.
Right.
Right?
Well,
It's us.
Mary and I are the communications
Oh,
committee
okay, so you're,
of the PAC board, and but David, being on the steering committee of Invest, was researching. I'm sure you were here at the meeting when we talked about this. Was researching improving our robocalls, meaning maybe a different company or a different way of doing our robocalls or a different way of having people receive them, or just all the issues with the robocalls, and there are many.
Okay. Any further comments or questions on the old business? Anybody on the board? We have no new business. So we're down to determination of the next.
There's
Oh,
one.
go ahead, Tom.
Late breaking question, Tom.
under new business. So we just had a discussion about blackouts, brownouts, generators, and what to do, what not to do. And to me, it was very confusing.
Mhm.
As particularly around the question of what happens if that switch goes out? How long are we going to be out of power, and how do we manage that? So I think that we might consider making this a new business item so that we could really get clarity on what residents should expect. How do we handle a brownout differently than a blackout? And what's really going to happen if that switch blows? Who's going to provide the electricity? What, you know, when you mentioned that we had generators before, at what cost? And who pays for that, since we've been asking for this for so long? You know, how is that under insurance, you know? So, so I think this should be a new business type of item so that we can have a real good, solid communication to ourselves about how to do that.
I thought we had kind of intimated that someone is writing an article for the Echo on that, which actually really gets to more people than a PAC board meeting. We have 25 people. We have what, 15 in the room and 25 online, and
Well, if you
But I-
decide that the Echo is the best way to communicate this and you've got that communication ready, then
Yeah, the
fine.
deadline's tomorrow. I don't think it's gonna make the
Yeah.
November.
No.
But
I would
otherwise,
like
it
to
should be a
see it.
new business item so we don't lose track of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd
Yeah.
like to
That's
see
all I'm saying.
an item on the agenda and have Matt present it. He has the numbers on what the generator costs. He knows who he has to call. It should be a management report from Matt
Could also be an invest issue.
or an invest or a
Mhm.
combination,
okay.
but I
Well,
think we
Matt-
need a report.
Matt is working on this whole thing anyway with, you know, as Jay said in the management report. And so it will, in my mind, it would be bundled with that at the next.
But I'd like to
PAC
hear
board
from
meeting.
Matt himself. I think it would be helpful for the residents and for all of us to hear
Sure,
from
we
Matt.
can
'Cause
ask him.
He's been
Mhm.
through this before,
Yes, he has.
so I think
Many
that
of
has
us have.
value if he could join us. I'm not trying to make work for him. I'm just trying to give
I
him
know. Yeah, so-
validation for what he does.
And the second new business item that you might want to consider is to have a discussion about whether or not to have Matt here for a portion of the PAC meetings so that he can be accountable directly to the board rather than, you know, a two-step process to get information from Matt and back. Since our legal representation has changed, since our standing is, you know, moving along, we can certainly bring him on when we're not, and have him leave before we divulge any secrets. So it might be worth the board considering that as an item to really discuss that and hash through whether or not we can have him as part of the meeting.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
So it's clear to me that it's going to be on the agenda at the next meeting. That's the request,
Well,
and that's
or,
acknowledged,
or part of the management report
part of the management
remains to
report.
be seen.
And number two, the management report needs to include what the status is and the progress is. Because this has been an issue for a long time. We've been kicking it around. We've had problems with it. It needs intervention, obviously. So let's push.
Okay, I'm gonna do something that I'm gonna, that we should not be doing, which is responding directly. So what used to happen, we used to run the PAC meetings, you know, probably most of the people here remember, they were really loosey-goosey. We did not go by the Brown Act. It was back and forth and back and forth. People asked Matt their questions that they should have been going to Matt and asking him, but they felt, oh, let me do it at a public forum. So they were asking Matt questions that shouldn't have been in a PAC board meeting. Or people would say things and would say, take it up with Matt because it was not appropriate for PAC board meetings. We went back and forth and back and forth. We should not be doing that because it is not according to the Brown Act. Now, and any legal counsel will tell us this. It doesn't have to be Dana Dean, and any legal counsel will tell us that we need to be going by our bylaws, and our bylaws, we have the delegation agreement from the city. We need to be going by the Brown Act. So we're getting a little bit out of whack here doing this back and forth stuff, and I'm doing it right now in responding to the last couple of speakers here. We have to go back to being very diligent about conducting our meetings according to the Brown Act. I'm sorry, but that's, you know, someone has to say that. And well, I fear that if Matt starts coming to meetings and giving his report, then everybody's going to say, well, at my house, such and such, and then Matt's going to answer, and then they answer, and then Matt answers, and we're just all is lost according in terms of the Brown Act.
With the greatest
That's-
respect, the past is not a place of residence.
Right.
Yeah. No.
I mean, I personally think he should be making specific reports and that it's clear, but the president runs the meeting, that he's not here to answer, you know, that your cat got stuck in a window or your tree didn't get trimmed.
So it's going to be on the
It'd be
next agenda and we
specific.
will get an update from the city and from our manager.
Yeah. Just make
The
it-
president and the secretary write the agenda, and we'll decide what goes on the next
This is
agenda.
a request from somebody that lives
Thank you
here.
very much.
And I'm
We'll
making
take
the
this up
request as
later.
well. I'm making the request as well.
I'm just joking.
Usually you're accommodating.
I think
Yeah.
what's confusing is that we are hearing, you know, different things on what happens if the electric switch goes out. And it'd be nice to hear from the person who knows where all the switches are and who to call, exactly what his procedures would be in the event of a blackout.
No
That's
argument.
all I'm asking for.
No
And
argument.
Matt can do
Mhm.
that. Not that Jay can't, but I'd rather have Matt as our manager show himself and show his capabilities.
Well, I agree with that because I know what their procedures were years ago. It may have changed.
Yeah,
And also it might be good for Matt to review exactly what
Right.
to do so that he
It's
can
up
push
to
the right
date.
button. at-
exactly.
yeah.
Cool.
Does it require a motion to put something on the new agenda?
No, but if you look at every agenda for every PAC board meeting, it says, please submit items 1 week in advance. Every agenda says that. So if you have something you'd like to go on the agenda, please call the president or the secretary or email us and say, could you please put this on the agenda?
It's being
Then
done-
what happens
All I'm doing is
is,
requesting that this be on next
I
month's
understand.
agenda. So
I
this is
understand. And then what happens is when the president and the secretary make the agenda for the next month, sometimes we'll say, well, this something that someone has submitted to us will say, well, this will actually be covered in the MVS report. Good example, the robocall, that didn't go on as an item because we thought, oh, we'll just remember to have that as part of the MVS report. Of course, I didn't remember, but that's the process. Okay,
Thank you, Tom.
thank you. Okay.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, determination of next PAC board meeting. I hope you have a lot of time here because we have to figure this out.
Week after the election.
What's that? Yeah. So what we decided that, yeah, the election is on the 5th and that's the other election. And probably going to take priorities of people's attention and certainly Carol Joy's. So we had decided to go the next week. Now, the next Monday is a holiday. So we're looking at the
Veterans Day.
following Tuesday. Now, that would be, I think, the 14th. Is that
The 12th.
12th? Yeah, it's 11th, 12th.
Is there a city council meeting that night?
Ooh,
I think
That
we
would
should,
be second Tuesday.
I think we should
oh,
bump it another day,
good point.
go to Wednesday. Just in
Okay.
case, they could put something on the
Which-
agenda, who knows?
Which means that HOL would have,
Well, they don't come to this anyway, so. Sorry.
the second Wednesday, might be,
Second Wednesday would be 13th,
yeah,
right?
uh,
But Marvell is in here that time.
They're in this room?
Yeah.
Couldn't
Then
we
there's
ask
no
them to go to a
conflict.
smaller room?
They don't come to this.
well, but if they want this room, then
Space.
there
Do
is.
they
a
meet here?
conflict.
What time do they meet?
But, not very many people come to their meetings, so fireside room? Fabulous. So let's set it for
Wednesday, the 13th.
Wednesday, the 13th. And why is it 4:30 instead of 5?
Um,
Oh, because we were going to have the other meeting. as
yeah,
well.
let's move it to 5 o'clock like this meeting.
Okay. So Wednesday,
Yeah.
November 13, everybody got that at 5 o'clock.
At 5 o'clock.
And maybe Carolyn could be encouraged to change her meeting to earlier in case her people want to come to this meeting. Why not? Ask her. Why not?
We can.
So
Okay. I
What's the
did-
past is not the present.
Yeah.
Thank you.
it's a place of reference, not of residence.
Exactly.
She is not on. But we do have one more comment from Jeannie Bradley.
Is she still on?
Okay.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I couldn't type fast enough when you were talking about the switch failure to get my issue again expressed to you, that this is a critical issue. The switch goes, we are without power, not for a few days, but until it can be repaired. Currently, we cannot repair the switch, so we could possibly be without power indefinitely. If we cannot now determine how to exist here without electricity, without a gas generator, how can we possibly exist on generators for an indefinite period of time? This is a serious threat to our community. The clubhouse cannot possibly be the answer. Someone submitted that we could use personal generators, and we know that even if they're installed correctly, they're extremely dangerous and expensive to purchase, install, and use. We need an emergency response team for us. How would we respond? Matt can throw all the switches he wants, but what does the individual homeowner do when the electricity is out for an extended period of time? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Janine.
Thank you.
That has to be addressed. Absolutely.
We will address that.
How?
That's agendized for next week, for
And
next month. excuse
I
me.
also think that it's going to get addressed through the communication with the city. We have to go back to them on some of the capital projects. And so I think we need to make, a stronger case on this electrical switch, even with their new procedures in place, that they fast track it because it's for all the reasons we've heard tonight.
Let me say a quick word about what happened 6 years ago.
Yeah.
The power went out for the whole park until they found out that it was basically a problem down on Club View. So within about less than 24 hours, the rest of the park got power back. Club View was without power for almost 48 hours. Then they brought a generator in and hooked us all up, and we had power again. So there's no long period of power outage. Generators can be brought in, and they have much bigger ones that can run the whole park. Matt knows this, Jay knows this, and that is Plan B. If the switch can't be replaced right away. We ran on that generator for 3 weeks until they could get a new box down there, PG&E, to replace it.
Yeah, it was
So-
expensive, but
That's, I think what we need to hear from Matt is the cost of that, so residents know that I don't know where that money's going to come from.
Okay, well, we have this on the
Yeah.
agenda. We have
Yeah.
a plan to address it, so we will do that. So I think it's time to end this meeting.
No,
Yeah, really. There's
come on,
there's no refreshments.
come on. I'll
So-
motion that we adjourn.
I move we adjourn. Oh, you already did that. Okay. You don't actually need to. I just adjourned the meeting.
Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks to everybody on Zoom for attending.
Thanks for the Zoom
Thank you,
participants.
thank you, thank you. Mr. Goff, thank you for your report.